Hey VC, this is Harvey of Spin the Black Circle. Hope everyone is well and doing good things. The supposed end to the heat wave seems to have just been on paper because it is a sweltering 29 degrees where I live in the UK today. Much more than us cold-blooded British residents are used to, and I want it to end, I have to say, which may sound miserable, but it is true. And so I had no option, VC, other than to run to the nearest air-conditioned record store and pick up some albums today, and some singles, in fact. And also I used my phone to buy off the air-conditioned app that is Discogs too. Maybe you can spot the flaw in my logic, but quite a bit to show you here today at an eclectic bunch. I do at the very end want to say a few words about Sonny Rollins. No surprise, I'm going to show 4 Sonny Rollins albums that I already have, though I have got more than I'm going to show today. But 4 key albums for me because he was such a jazz legend, not just a musical legend generally, that I just want to spend that time at the end. But anyway, what did I pick up? What did I buy at record stores and in Discogs? I won't differentiate massively from which stores I went to. I just want to talk about the music. Starting with something that I've been meaning to pick up and waiting for the right version of for at least 2, maybe 3 years, is Games, Dames and Guitar Things by Eddie Hazel. P-Funk classic guitar funk album by one of the 2 key P-Funk guitarists. My P-Funk collection, I must do a full feature on it because it's pretty big. It's not comprehensive because that's quite difficult with P-Funk, but I should do a full George Clinton and P-Funk upload at some point. But anyway, I've been waiting for the right copy to come out, and this Rhino Reserve is that thing because it's mastered by Chris Bellman from the original master tapes. It gets good reviews. It will do for me, and yeah, I'm really excited because as I say, I've been waiting for the right version of this. Having listened to it lots of times on CD in the past, in that amazing version of California Dreaming. What a guitarist, what an album. So enhancing my P-Funk collection with Games, Dames and Guitar Things, finally by Eddie Hazel on vinyl. Grail is a strong word, but wanted for a long time. Absolutely. Talking of worthy reissues, if you're a Miles Davis fan, not a tour dipper, please get hold of the just released Tone Poet of Birth of the Cool. It is fantastic. It is not audiophile. It hasn't a record that was recorded in 2 parts between 1949 and 1951 is not going to be audiophile. But this, for the first time ever for me, brought the music into stark relief. That is the difference. The CD copies, digital copies that I've owned of this in the past, and admittedly this is the first vinyl copy that I've owned, but those CD copies sound distant, like listening to the music through a telephone. This sounds like instruments in the room with you, and you can hear the separation. And collectively, Max Roach's drums on the 951 recorded sessions on this are unbelievable. It is amazing, but also Davis trumpet. I mean, this was, of course, after its time, more in the late 50s, began to be recognised as the birth of something, the birth of the cool. I think it was actually released in 1956, if I'm not wrong, and the separation from bebop into a more gentle style and melodic style of playing, which is what this Gil Evans Miles Davis collaboration is the point of this. So Miles Davis tour dippers, don't start here. Start with Kind of Blue. Start with Nefertiti. Start with Miles Smiles or In a Silent Way. But Miles aficionados who know Birth of the Cool, this Tone Poet is the one you need, my friends. It is not audiophile, but it is, for the first time, I can enjoy the music rather than just admiring Birth of the Cool. That's the simplest way I can explain it, but super stoked to get that. I'm not going to spoil it, but because lots of people will buy this, but the inner gatefold photographs on this are sensational, especially the quality of a Tone Poet. Wow. So yeah, Birth of the Cool, Miles Davis, as you can hear, super stoked about that. Next one is a lesson in, the next few actually are a lesson in not leaving records on shelves and thinking, I may come back later date in the shop and buy that. Because these next three especially, that's what happened. So a couple of weeks ago I was in Bridge 2 Point Records, and I think I said in one of my VCs, there was a chap there who knew his stuff on soul and funk, and he said, buy Thrust by Herbie Hancock, buy that album, mate. He even put it in my hand, and I already got Herbie Hancock's Headhunters. I knew I would love this, and the lineup's fantastic too. I mean, for blame's sake, Paul Jackson on bass, and it's prime time 70s Herbie Hancock, and I left it on the shelf, and I can't explain why I left it on the shelf. It wasn't expensive either, and it was gone when I went back a week later, so I was reduced to then buying it at an increased price and having to put postage and pack it on from Discogs. But I have now from Discogs got Thrust by Herbie Hancock, and I'm really pleased to have it. It's worth watching actually. The chaps from Open Studio on the YouTube channel, you'll hear it. The two American chaps who are musicians, who what they do is they're kind of jazz musicians, but they're not kind of, they are jazz musicians, both pianists, and they dissect soul, funk and jazz albums or careers of artists over 1, 2 or sometimes 3 hour videos, and they do an hour-long video on Herbie Hancock's Thrust. So if you search, you'll hear it. That's the name of the YouTube channel. These chaps come up, and it was only a week ago, there's an episode on Thrust by Herbie Hancock, which is really informative, and they obviously play sections from the tracks, and they break it down and actually use the mixing desk to they must get rights to this to kind of phase out some of the instruments so you can hear just the piano or just the drums or just the bass. But anyway, don't leave records on the shelves if you want them. Why did I leave it on the shelf? It's cost me more, but here we go through it. And again, I've done this numerous times with Freak Out Band and Mothers of Invention. I've finally got it. Finally got my first copy after leaving an original pressing on the shelf, leaving a 70s reissue on the shelf, leaving this particular renowned Pumpkin Records, Barking Pumpkin Records reissue. It gets mega reviews. I left this on the shelf from a record fair just a couple of months back. Why did I do it? So there it was on Psychotron Records today for £25, which is a good price for this really reputable double reissue of Freak Out by the Mothers of Invention. I have got it. I didn't leave it on the shelf today. I can't explain why I did that all of those times before and why it's been on my to-do list, and I still left it. It's probably some Northern English thing of I must not spend all of this money, but that's false economy, and I'm going to later spend it anyway. And in between those two things, dwell on the fact that I should have bought it. So Freak Out by Frank Zappa. The next one is even worse, VC, because I have 2 copies already of this album, this Pink Floyd album. I'm a massive Pink Floyd fan. What a surprise. But I've been after a first or second pressing of in near mint condition of Pink Floyd's Animals. So I've got the reissue and I've got the remaster remix version, with the grey cover. But I finally got my hands on this. I think it's the second pressing. But I seen it in Bridge 2 Point Records a month back. And again, I thought, I'll leave it on the shelf. I'll get another day. I went back 3 days later. Somebody had picked it up. I had to buy this on Discogs again. So, so if you want it and you can afford it without getting into debt, of course, buy the thing. Buy that record. So, admittedly, did I need this as my 3rd copy of Animals? But I quite like the James Guthrie digital reissue. It does sound good. I think the remaster remix with a great cover sounds good, but I've heard and I want to hear for myself that an original pressing might be, certainly the way it was meant to sound. So here we go. It wasn't particularly expensive, but it is, according to Discogs anyway, and someone with a 100% rating near mint. So having left it on the shelf, again, I paid slightly more for getting a second pressing of Animals by Pink Floyd. The next one is the Pink Floyd 2. This isn't about leaving it on the shelf, but the current copy UK original of Metal that I have, it's pretty crackly. It's in pretty bad shape. So this is a UK second pressing for £35 on the Harvest label. It's actually near mint. It looks absolutely spectacular. I don't know how much you can see of this on a video on YouTube, but this is in amazing condition. So this is more about having a pressing. The cover's in great nick too. Having a pressing of an album that I love. in much better condition, which I know a lot of us end up doing on VC. So it's less about the fetish nature of having lots of pressings of the same album and more about having a much better sounding record. So maybe I'll let that that other pressing of Metal Good is listenable, but this hopefully is way better because it's been advertised as near mint. The next one, complete departure, UK electronic singer-songwriter Lapsley and her album from a few years ago, Through Water. So think of this as, I didn't mean to be too offensive, but Adele, if Adele was any good. Is how I describe Lapsley. It's much more experimental than Adele. I only use Adele as an example because she's a female artist with a similar style of voice, I would say. But songwriting is completely different. This is electronica, apparently inspired Billie Eilish from her first album. But this is the second Lapsley album. It's really good. How could I describe it? Royksort meets Adele is the best way. Air meets Adele, but really cool lyrically. Lovely choice of kind of ambient electronic music, but a really good songwriter. It's still song based, even though she's an electronic artist. I think she's kind of faded away a bit now. She made one or two more albums after this, and I think she may have either retired or stepped back a bit from the music industry. But yeah, Lapsley's Through Water, really nice LP. This was £12 on Excel Records from Bridge 2.0 Records, just down the road. The next one is the most expensive record that I have bought in a while. It is a UK original near mint pressing of Elastic Rock by the British jazz rock band Nucleus. So this is a Vertigo Swirl original in near mint condition. The only thing missing from this is the Vertigo Swirl inner sleeve, but I do have a spare, so I can fix that. And the record itself is in near mint condition. So this was not cheap at £120, but that for a near mint version of this, and it is I'm pretty sure your first pressing, with the cutouts as well. Of a classic British jazz rock album, and I'm super stoked, and I have no hesitation in paying £120 for something of that quality, and something that I don't keep these things for any actual financial value. That it's not an investment really, but to have something that probably will hold its value for a while because of the status of Vertigo Swirls, but more importantly, music I love on this fantastic, gorgeous Vertigo Swirl pressing, then yes please. So Elastic Rock by Nucleus. Main protagonist here is Ian Carr on sax, or was he trumpet? Yeah, he was sax, wasn't he? But yeah, either way, Elastic Rock by Nucleus from 1970, original near mint Vertigo Swirl pressing. Just come out and picked up today from my local record store is the Jazz Dispensary Muse Records reissue of Motherland by the Visitors, which are Earl and Carl Grubbs, so a funk jazz rock classic. I'm loving these jazz dispensary series. Really good. I know that Cam at the Vinyl Narrative have mentioned and shown some of these releases, and this I haven't played it yet. But yeah, I'm super excited. They're all analog. This is a Kevin Gray cut, Coherent. It's AAA, and yeah, the Jazz Dispensary Top Shelf series, and this is a renowned jazz funk album, Motherland by the Visitors. So really happy to have that from our local record store. Also hot off the press and coming out yesterday from the 83-year-old ex-Beatle, the new Paul McCartney LP. The Boys of Dungeon Lane. There it is. This will be shown many times, I'm sure, on the VC over the coming weeks. And this is the Indies Only exclusive pink vinyl, which, let's not get too excited about that, because the last McCartney album, McCartney 3, there was something like 30 or 40 variants, none of which would be worth any sort of money. But anyway, I just thought it was quite nice to have an Indies exclusive version, whether or not it's of any value, it doesn't matter. It's lovely embossed cover, almost as if that is a street sign there. I haven't heard any of that. I've made a point of not streaming this yet. What I did do this morning was play McCartney 3. which I really enjoyed. I got up before, just after breakfast, and put McCartney 3 on at the time he was 78. Now you've got an 83-year-old releasing his latest LP, hopefully not his last either. So yeah, Paul McCartney, I'm a massive Beatles fan, as are many in the VC, and I'm really stoked to hear what he's delivered on The Boys of Dungeon Lane, his latest album. Then another album that I already have, but not in this format. I have Gish by the Smashing Pumpkins on vinyl, but it's that kind of purple off colour that they did in the reissues via Billy Corgan about 10-15 years ago, whereas this is the RSD Essential reissue with the original Gish cover on it. And this is also, it's gorgeous actually. I've seen it, it's the pink and purple splatter vinyl of Gish. So purely aesthetic to have it in its original form. I could not resist when I was in the record store picking up Gish. I'm a massive Smashing Pumpkins fan. So there you go. And last, by no means least, just an album that I should have bought ages ago if I've purporting to have anything like a classic rock collection, which I try to. Then Tonight's the Night by Neil Young. I think this is either original or close to the 70s pressing anyway, with the insert too. So yeah, Tonight's the Night by Neil Young, finally on vinyl, along with the other Neil Young albums that I have. Pleased to finally have that. Now then, the late great Sonny Rollins, R.I.P., left us this week. What to say? His tone, his output, the 7-decade career that he had on everything from Prestige through Blue Note to some of the later labels, and the influence they had across the genre and music more generally was just gargantuan. So I can't hope in 4 albums to cover the breadth of Sonny Rollins, but I can say that I love all 4 of these, starting with Way Out West, an amazing trio LP with Shelly Manne on drums. Well known, this is the Craft reissue from about a year ago. Sounds sensational. And how a trio that only involves sax, bass and drums can sound as full as this is something else. Ray Brown on bass, as I say, Shelly Manne on drums. It's sensational. The next is probably well, in my mind, the best Sonny Rollins album that ever was. But I haven't said that, I haven't heard all of them. The best Sonny Rollins album that I've heard is Saxophone Colossus on the Prestige label. What an LP. The tone, the song choice, the humanity that goes into this record, particularly on my favourite, the second track, You Don't Know What Love Is. St. Thomas, probably the most famous track, but everything on here, Blue Seven, Strode Road, Moritat. Oh, what an amazing album. I recommend picking up 80s original jazz classics with OGC in the corner of albums like this, Prestige albums, because the 80s ones, not the 90s ones, they tended to use original master tapes, analog master tapes, because hey ho, they didn't have digital tapes yet then, and they sound fantastic. And this pressing of Saxophone Colossus was under £20 for me in the UK, and it sounds absolutely fantastic. So yeah, it's a 1987 German pressing, in fact, of Saxophone Colossus by Sonny Rollins, originally Prestige label, re-released by OGC in the 80s. But anyway, enough of the pressing nonsense. The music on this is sensational. I would start with this if you want to know what the fuss is about Sonny Rollins. A little bit, not much behind that is Tenor Madness, the Sonny Rollins Quartet, featuring John Coltrane, interestingly, on one of the tracks. You've got a stellar cast on this, though. Philly Joe Jones, Paul Chambers, Red Garland. So effectively, 3/5 of the Miles Davis. Well, if you had Sonny Rollins in, 4/5 of the Miles Davis great 50s quintet backing Sonny Rollins on this amazing LP. So yeah, I would start with Saxophone Colossus and quickly move on to Tenor Madness if you are new to Sonny Rollins. And then yeah, I really love this album too. Nuke's Time, which is an 800 series album that Sonny Rollins recorded for Blue Note, along with Wynton Kelly on piano, Doug Watkins on bass, and again Philly Joe Jones on drums. Excellent version of the Surrey with the Fringe on top. Tune Up is fantastic. Blues for Philly Joe. yeah, superb. I haven't heard a bad Sonny Rollins LP, and this would also be a good place to start, particularly because this is it's a Blue Note Classic series from the analog tapes, mastered by Kevin Gray, and is reasonably cheap. So there you have it. R.I.P. Sonny Rollins. Lots of records that I need to clean up and listen to before I fail. I hope that was interesting. Thanks again for watching, and peace.